The Avengers stand together in the wreckage of a ruined city, the latest mission turning into a devastating disaster. Captain America, with his shield raised, stares at the lifeless alien body in front of him. A mistake. A deadly one. He thought the alien was a threat to Earth, an enemy bent on annihilation. But the truth hits hard. This alien wasn't a warrior. She was Queen Isra, a peacekeeper from a distant planet, sent to warn Earth about an impending cosmic invasion. Captain America's heart pounds as he realizes the weight of his actions. He killed the wrong being, and in the process, unknowingly triggered a war. The Avengers are divided. Thor and Hulk are furious. Black Widow's disappointment cuts deep. But the worst part, one of their own betrayed them. Who gave the order? Steve demands, his voice cracking with guilt. The truth will change everything. And as the Avengers begin to turn on one another, a new alien threat emerges, one who knows how to play the game of lies. Captain America stands in front of the Avengers Mission Command Center, trying to calm his own inner turmoil. The battle has been long over, but the consequences of his actions are just beginning to unfold. He killed Queen Isra, a peaceful alien emissary from the planet Vela. Isra wasn't an invader or a destroyer. She was Earth's only chance for survival against the real threat, Draxon, an ancient cosmic warlord who feeds off the chaos of war. The moment Isra's body fell to the ground, the air in the Avengers base turned thick with betrayal. Tony Stark's voice was the first to rise, laced with fury. You killed her, Steve. You killed an innocent. What the hell happened? Steve's grip tightened on his shield. He hadn't had the chance to process the guilt. His team was fracturing in real time. This was a mistake. I thought. You thought she was the enemy, Tony interrupted, his voice sharp. You didn't think at all. Black Widow stepped forward, her eyes narrowed. We had intel. We were supposed to know who our enemy was, and we still made the wrong call. Her gaze darted to the other Avengers, then back at Steve. Who fed us that intel? The silence in the room grew heavier with every passing second. Steve's mind raced. Who was behind this? Was it Hydra, or Weiss, someone from within their own ranks? His thoughts went straight to the team's own intelligence officers, and his eyes fell on Natasha. She knew something. We were set up, Natasha said softly, her voice trembling. It wasn't you, Steve. It was. But before she could finish, the room exploded with a roar, and the walls of the base shook violently. The monitors blinked to life, revealing an incoming fleet of alien ships, Draxon's armada. We've got company, yelled Thor, his hammer glowing with fury. But there's more. There's something darker about this attack. Something familiar. As Draxon's fleet descended upon Earth, the team scrambled to organize. But trust was the first casualty. Everyone was looking over their shoulder now, unsure of who was a true ally. Steve felt a weight he couldn't bear. The crushing guilt of killing the wrong alien, the realization that Isra's death had unleashed an ancient evil. But his own team's division felt like an even greater betrayal. Natasha's words echoed in his mind. She knew something. Someone inside the Avengers had given them false intel, manipulating them like pawns in a galactic game of chess. The first alien ship touched down, and from its hull emerged Draxon, the villainous king of deceit. His eyes glowed an eerie red, his form towering and ethereal. His armor, black and jagged, shimmered with the colors of shattered galaxies. His voice boomed through the air. Earth is mine now, thanks to your little mistake, Captain America. Your team has failed, and I will make sure you all pay. In that moment, the Avengers were no longer just fighting for Earth. They were fighting to survive the consequences of their divided loyalty and broken trust. And as Draxon's forces advanced, Steve knew that no matter how hard he tried to undo the damage, the war for Earth had only just begun. The question remained, who had set them up? And would they ever be able to put the pieces of their shattered team back together in time to stop Draxon's invasion? The air in the Avengers' headquarters felt colder with every passing minute. The battle against Draxon's alien fleet had already begun, but the most dangerous enemy wasn't the monstrous alien storming Earth. It was the deep, gnawing mistrust now festering within the team. Captain America, still shaken from killing Queen Isra, paced back and forth in the war room. His shield was heavy in his hand, but not because of its weight. It was the guilt, the crushing regret that had taken root. His heart was torn, not just from the loss of an innocent alien, but from the realization that someone close to him had betrayed them. The Avengers were divided, and it wasn't just a fracture of strategy or miscommunication. It was a deep, personal betrayal. In the midst of the chaos, Natasha gathered the team in a private room, hoping to address the growing rift. But even as the Avengers assembled, their faces revealed more than words ever could. "Listen," Natasha began, her voice quieter than usual. "We don't have time for finger-pointing right now, but we need to get on the same page. That intel was manipulated by someone who knew exactly how to exploit our weaknesses." A low growl echoed from Hulk as he glared at Steve. "You trusted the wrong people." Tony Stark was pacing, muttering under his breath. "This isn't about who we trusted, Hulk. This is about the fact that one of us set up the entire damn thing. And that's something I can't let go." Steve's gaze moved from Tony to Natasha. He could see the guilt in her eyes. She knew something. He knew she was trying to protect someone. "But who?" "I know who it is," Natasha said, finally breaking the silence. Her voice was steady but edged with sadness. The Avengers turned their eyes to her, waiting for her to speak. She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor. When she lifted her eyes again, there was no more hesitation. It was Clint. A stunned silence fell over the room. "Hawkeye?" Tony asked incredulously. "Clint. Our friend." "Clint," Natasha confirmed, her voice quiet but resolute. "He's been feeding false intel. He was working with Draxon." Steve's breath caught in his chest. Hawkeye, the sharpshooter with the most reliable instincts in the group, had betrayed them. But why? How could someone so loyal turn against everything they stood for? "He's not just a pawn in Draxon's game," Natasha continued. "He's been manipulated, brainwashed even. Draxon's power allows him to control minds, twist loyalty. Clint didn't betray us on his own. He was forced into it." Steve felt a lump form in his throat. Clint had been his closest friend, someone he trusted without question. The idea that Draxon could have turned him into an enemy seemed impossible. But the evidence was undeniable. The intel had been faulty from the start, and Clint had been out of sight during key moments of the mission. It all clicked into place now. Too much to ignore. "We have to find him before Draxon does," Steve said, his voice filled with urgency. "If Draxon gets his hands on Clint, there's no telling what he could do." "I'll go after him," Natasha volunteered immediately. "I know Clint better than anyone, and I'll do whatever it takes to bring him back." "No," Steve said, stopping her. "I'll go. This is my mistake. I killed Isra. I'll fix this." But before Natasha could protest, a loud crash interrupted their conversation. The walls trembled as the sound of footsteps grew louder. Draxon's soldiers had breached the building. "They're here," Tony said, staring at the monitors. "And they've brought reinforcements." Steve's gaze hardened. "We're running out of time. But we won't let Draxon win." With the Avengers ready for battle, there was no more time to dwell on mistakes or betrayals. They had to save Clint and the world before Draxon's army could finish what it started. But as Steve steeled himself for the fight, one haunting question echoed in his mind. Could they ever truly trust each other again? The Avengers stormed into action as Draxon's forces breached the headquarters. The ground shook violently as alien soldiers clashed against Earth's mightiest heroes. The once unified team, now fractured by suspicion and betrayal, fought side by side. But there was a tension in the air, an unease that clouded every swing of Thor's hammer and every blast from Iron Man's suit. Steve Rogers led the charge, his shield cutting through the chaos as his thoughts raced. He had to find Clint. He couldn't allow Draxon to turn his friend into a weapon. But as the Avengers pushed forward, every moment of hesitation gnawed at him. Clint had been more than a teammate. He was a brother, someone Steve had trusted with his life. But now that trust felt like a distant memory, replaced by doubt and anger. "Cap, heads up!" Tony shouted, pulling Steve from his thoughts. A massive alien beast, its body covered in glistening armor, charged at Steve. He deflected the blow with his shield, but the impact sent him tumbling across the floor. The alien roared, preparing to strike again, but before it could, Thor's lightning blasted it into oblivion. "We don't have time for this." Tony backed as he hovered above the battlefield, his suit glowing with energy. "We need to find Clint now." "We're not going to find him fighting these guys," Steve said, gritting his teeth. "You and Nat should handle the perimeter. I'm going after Clint." Thor turned to Steve, his expression grim. "We go together." We fight as one, or we lose. Steve nodded, understanding the truth in Thor's words. But Clint's betrayal had cut deeper than any alien could. Still, the team was everything. They couldn't afford to fracture any further. As they made their way to the war room, they encountered more alien soldiers, but they were nothing compared to the battle within the Avengers themselves. Steve could feel the weight of every teammate's gaze. They were all still reeling from the revelation that Clint had been involved with Draxon. Even Natasha, the one who had known the truth, seemed distant, her eyes clouded with emotion. "I'll find him," Natasha said quietly as they approached the elevator. Her eyes met Steve's, her expression unreadable. "But we need to be careful. Draxon isn't just controlling Clint. He's manipulating him on a level we don't understand." Steve's mind spun. Clint had never been the kind of man to betray the team. He was a family man, someone who understood sacrifice. How had Draxon bent him to his will? "We'll bring him back," Steve said, his voice determined. "We'll undo the damage. This isn't just Clint's fault. Draxon's the one pulling the strings." As they reached the sublevels of the base, where the most secure operations took place, a loud clang echoed through the corridor. It was the sound of metal scraping against metal. Steve's heart skipped a beat. "Clint!" Natasha called out, her voice trembling. There, standing in the shadows, was Clint Barton, Hawkeye. But he was different. His eyes were dark, his expression cold. His bow was drawn, an arrow aimed straight at them. "Clint, stop!" Steve shouted, his voice firm yet full of desperation. But Clint didn't lower his weapon. He stared at Steve with a haunted look in his eyes. "I didn't want this, Steve. I didn't have a choice." His voice was shaky, filled with anguish. "Draxon has taken everything from me. He made me believe you were the real threat. He made me think you wouldn't understand." "I do understand," Steve said softly, stepping forward. "But you don't have to do this. We're your family, Clint. We'll fight Draxon together. But you need to come back." Clint's hand shook as he lowered his bow. "I wish I could. But Draxon's control, it's too powerful. I don't know how much longer I can fight it." Before Steve could respond, Draxon's voice boomed through the base, echoing like a dark cloud over them. "You've already lost, Avengers. Your trust is shattered, your strength divided. You will never defeat me." A sudden, violent rumble rocked the base as Draxon's warship hovered above the building. The alien warlord had arrived, and he was ready to finish what he started. His massive figure appeared on the monitors, his eyes glowing with malice. "Clint, listen to me," Natasha said agently, her voice barely above a whisper. "If you stay with Draxon, you're going to destroy everything. You're stronger than this. We are stronger than this." Clint closed his eyes, fighting the inner war raging within him. The alien influence was powerful, but it wasn't unstoppable. "I'm sorry," Clint whispered, his voice breaking. "I never meant to betray you." In that moment, something shifted. Clint's eyes cleared for a brief second, and he dropped his bow, stepping away from the shadows. But before they could fully regroup, Draxon's fleet began to descend, releasing a swarm of ships and soldiers to finish the job. "Let's go," Steve said, his resolve hardening once again. "We fight now. Together." With Clint back by their side, the Avengers took one last stand. But as Draxon's ships descended upon them, Steve knew the true battle wasn't just against alien invaders. It was the battle to restore trust, to heal the rift in their team, and to face the truth that sometimes the greatest enemies were the ones within. The Avengers regrouped, their hearts heavy with the weight of the past few days. Clint had returned, but the battle wasn't over, not by a long shot. The true enemy, Draxon, hovered just above them with his armada, a dark force whose very presence seemed to twist reality itself. Steve felt the ache of guilt from killing the wrong alien, and the lingering mistrust that ran between the Avengers was almost as dangerous as Draxon's invasion. But in this final moment, they had to push all that aside. "We have to stop him now," Tony said, eyes fixed on the monitors, showing Draxon's warship rapidly descending toward Earth. "Before this whole place becomes the next crater." Natasha turned to Clint, her eyes full of a mixture of relief and concern. "Are you sure you're with us, Clint? Draxon's control is still strong in your mind." Clint nodded slowly, his hands shaking slightly. "I can feel him, trying to pull me back. But I'm done running. I won't be his puppet anymore. Steve stepped forward, giving Clint a determined look. We fight together. No more secrets. No more lies. If we're going to win, it's because we trust each other. Clint met his gaze, and for the first time in days, there was a flicker of the old Hawkeye in his eyes, the man who had stood beside them through thick and thin. Let's finish this, Clint said, gripping his bow with newfound strength. The Avengers marched out of the base, their steps synchronized, their resolve hardened. They knew this was it, the final confrontation with Draxon and his army. But there was one final hurdle they had to overcome, the lies, betrayal, and broken trust that had torn their team apart. If they didn't face that together, no victory would feel worth it. The skies above were choked with Draxon's ships, casting a dark shadow over the battlefield. Steve led the charge, his shield held high, with Thor, Tony, and Natasha flanking him. Clint moved silently in the background, an arrow drawn, his eyes scanning for targets. But the true battle was not just against Draxon, it was against the looming fear of what had nearly torn them apart. We can do this, Tony shouted over the chaos, his chute flaring with energy. We're the Avengers, damn it. A massive blast of energy erupted from Draxon's flagship, sending shockwaves through the ground. The Avengers barely had time to brace themselves before Draxon's forces flooded the battlefield. Alien warriors, massive beasts, and deadly machines. But the Avengers stood united, fighting back with the fury of a team that had fought for far too long to let it all crumble. Draxon's booming voice echoed across the field, his presence now almost tangible. You cannot win. I have already broken your trust. You're nothing without it. You will fall like all the others. The ground trembled as Draxon himself descended from his ship, his towering figure more terrifying than any of them had imagined. His black armor glowed with the remnants of the destruction he had caused throughout the universe. His eyes burned with malice, and his voice rang with cold confidence. You think you can beat me, Avengers? Draxon's voice was a low growl, full of scorn. You, who have betrayed each other so easily. You, who killed the innocent and tore yourselves apart for nothing. You are already defeated. Not today, Steve shouted, rushing forward, his shield crashing into the ground as he propelled himself toward Draxon with the force of a freight train. Thor unleashed a bolt of lightning, hitting Draxon with all the power of his god. But the villain absorbed the attack effortlessly, laughing as if the Avengers were mere insects to be crushed. Clint, standing back, aimed his bow high. I may not be Asgardian, but I've got a few tricks of my own. His arrow whistled through the air, striking Draxon's shield, cracking it momentarily. It was the first real sign of vulnerability. Draxon staggered, momentarily off balance, and that was all the Avengers needed. Natasha lunged forward, her fists landing on Draxon's chest with the precision of a deadly assassin. This is for all of us, she said, her voice filled with a fierce determination. But the real turning point came when Steve made a split-second decision. He knew the team couldn't defeat Draxon with sheer power alone. They had to take him down from the inside, just like they had with their own fractured unity. Steve lunged forward, using his shield to deflect Draxon's devastating energy blast. But instead of just attacking, he dove toward Draxon's core, his mind. You may have broken our trust, Steve said, his voice carrying through the chaos. But we will never be your pawns again. Steve's words were a signal. Clint, his bow drawn, released the final arrow, a trick arrow infused with a blast of energy from Tony's chute. It hit Draxon directly in his chest, causing a massive explosion of light. Draxon staggered, his body flickering, his power draining. For the first time in ages, the villain looked vulnerable, and as the Avengers closed in, together, they gave everything they had. Each blow delivered not just with their strength, but with their restored faith in one another. With a final, earth-shattering roar, Draxon fell to the ground, his power consumed by the energy of the Avengers' unity. As the dust settled, the Avengers stood victorious, battered but unbroken. The alien fleet had been defeated, and Earth was safe, for now. Steve turned to face his team, his eyes meeting each of theirs. There was no more tension, no more doubt. They were family, and no matter the challenges they faced, together, they could overcome anything. We may have been divided, Steve said softly, but today, we came back together. That's what makes us stronger. With Draxon gone and the team whole once again, The Avengers had proven that no matter the darkness that tried to tear them apart, they would always rise as one. END